Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It is exactly 9:30 a.m. and we're still talking fires in homes and surrounding areas, not forgetting business premises, factories, etc. And obviously the devastation to infrastructure. So let's look at that issue. We spoke earlier on to Nana Lindiwe Khiba about fires in the homes and child safety around fires. Now we're going to be talking with former MMC Environment and Infrastructure, and that is Nico De Jager, about the effects, the devastating effects on infrastructure regarding post fires and safety in buildings, businesses, factories, offices, etc. Nico De Jager, very good morning to you. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. It's always good to speak to you and to your listeners.
Thank you indeed. Long time no speak, though. So lovely to have you on the show yet once again.
Absolutely, yes, and it's a very interesting topic, and it's very topical at the moment. Because I'm allocated to the Roodepoort area, Roodepoort constituency, and that area specifically is very prevalent to veld fires, where we have a lot of provincial land and land not being kept short, grass short, etc. The veld fires and these fires that you're talking about, the effect on the infrastructure is absolutely severe, as you rightfully pointed out. And we have continuously engaged with the member of the executive in the provincial legislature on roads and transport, specifically to attend to the long grass in areas, especially on road reserves, that's affecting and very much the way veld fires happen. Often you have electrical cables, pylons, etc., running over these pieces of land, open pieces of land. Not only do those pieces of land often get invaded and by informal settlements, but also then the fires as a result thereof in this dry season. If that land is not kept short, the effect on those cables, the overhead cables that burn, the infrastructure that's already old and vandalized, easily then before prey to not only theft, vandalism, but then also the effect of veld fires. But it is also what the effect that it has even on our water infrastructure and our biodiversity, and of course those fires spread towards houses, and we've seen some devastating veld fires and effect on homes, people's private property as a result.
Not forgetting the impact on the economy, both on homeowners, business owners, and the local government as well. You mentioned something very important. Often when one drives from suburb to suburb or area to area, we do pass lots of open land, and you see all of those electricity pylons. And I often wonder and worry about the fact that very especially in autumn, you have these controlled fires. But what if those controlled fires get out of control and, God forbid, those pylons catch fire as well? Just imagine the devastation.
Which is exactly what happens. Now, in last year, I already engaged with the MEC for roads and transport to deal with it, especially in my constituency. Where one of the ward councillors were continuously fighting, and to the extent that some years ago the residents actually got together to buy a fire truck, and they have their own fire truck dealing with situations of veld fires, etc. Now, those pylons then, when they collapse, of course, it's got a massive effect on the economy. And it is going to happen, and it happens all the time. So we did engage with the MEC to have contractors in place to keep this grass short. And I believe as we speak, they started cutting grass in some areas. But grass cutting, contrary to popular belief, is not about aesthetics. It is about the safety. Fires, and also, unfortunately, that's where a lot of the people hide the bad people hide and
Absolutely.
unfortunately attack us at night. So it is more than just fires that we need to look at. It is the effect of long grass where you have fires, the effect on the economy, as you rightfully pointed out, but also the impact that it has on our biodiversity, on our animal and plant life in areas that's still very much protected. This should be very much be protected by us as lawmakers.
Okay, so what about city parks? I was chatting with someone in my area, and we live um, we live in a very hilly suburb.
Mm,
Part of the suburb is declared as a nature reserve. So you do
mm,
have exactly what you've said is the
mm,
biodiversity, it's the long grass that city parks are not maintaining on a regular
mm,
basis. I understand they're meant to be cleaning up at least 3 times a year, but we have this ongoing battle with city parks to come out and clean up and cut, get rid of alien vegetation and all of the overgrown
mm.
vegetation there. And it's like pulling teeth from a hen. You just can't, you just don't get any joy out of them.
Yeah.
And it's a huge problem. They meant to be clearing up, looking after the nature reserve and the grasslands. What do you suggest in a situation like that? Because obviously the residents can't go out and do it themselves. They don't have the
Mm.
expertise to do it.
Julie, Julie, it's a very interesting topic. And you will know when I was MMC, we started with a program called Arasebitsing. And I'm very happy to say that the DA government is continuing with the Arasebitsing, which really is about what you can do as a community to get involved. Because at the end of the day, it is very easy for us to say this is a political problem and politicians and administrators must deal with the problem. And of course, we all pay tax and that is what we expect. However, it's not that simple. Our kitty is shrinking, our tax base is shrinking, and those that can contribute is limited for various reasons, and not because. And I also don't believe people don't. It's not that people don't want to pay. Of course, you get those, but the majority of the people that who are not paying can afford to pay, and it doesn't mean to say that they don't deserve the service. So that is why the Arasibitseng principle is about Ubuntu. What can we do as communities to get together and assist? Because as much as we don't have the equipment and the expertise, we do have hands, and we as communities can often just come together and pick up the papers. Because yes, it is city powers, or rather, city parks' job to do that. But where they do not have the manpower, then let us assist them. But more so, government has a program called Expanded Public Works Programs. And year on and year, every year, and at the moment, from the provincial government, we are looking at how the departments in the province are underspending on those expanded public work programs that we could give and assist municipalities and government um, with the necessary manpower to also empower those people who are desperate without a job to do something. So government needs to do more, you're right, but also as residents, we shouldn't walk away just because somebody else dumped a piece of paper. Tell them, yeah, to pick it up. That's going to free up the resources to do something else. I do it, and I also, it's during this dry season, so many people you see driving in their cars, flicking a stumpy out the car. That's a
Yes,
fire
yes.
waiting to happen. So
Yeah.
it is about just taking responsibility for our own environment and to do what we can to to uh, to stop fires and from happening and continuing to happen.
Okay, you've given us some food for thought regarding our role in keeping our environments clean and safe. What else ought we be doing uh, to ensure that our properties are not a fire risk? What ought to be doing and putting in place?
Well, I think that's a very valid question, and especially with us having these load shedding schedules that's continuously happen. So I know it's sometimes annoying when you say, "Oh, that's a good question," but really is very important, and that
Yes.
is specifically when we have load shedding and power outages. It becomes very important for us to keep all the unnecessary equipment switch off. Keep one light off. In fact, go to the DB board and switch everything off. Keep one light on so that when power can come back on, we can gradually switch it back on. Why do I say that? A sudden inrush of current can cause a fire at a pole, at a substation, at a mini substation, and that is where often you then have the knock-on effect and additional fires. So it is for us to take responsibility is probably the most important, but there are little things that we can do, tweak in our daily lives to make our own lives easier. Not to leave gas heaters on if we're not in the room. It's very nice to walk into a warm room, but just always remember it's a fire hazard and anything can happen. A little bit of a breeze and a piece of paper can end up on that
Mm.
gas heater and the fire can catch a light. So it is just do the basics, and we all know what to do. We just need to do it.
So I just want you to reiterate something for me once again, because the ward councillor in our area, whenever we have electric outages thanks to ESCOM, she puts out a notice suggesting everybody please switch off their geysers and non-essential
Yes,
electricals. I've always wondered about that. You've indicated something to the effect that if you switch off all of those
mm,
uh, plugs, etc., you can prevent a power surge
mm,
and you can prevent a possible
mm.
fire. Is that in fact true? Because
That is
an electrician told me once that it's rubbish.
no, that electrician is talking nonsense. Let me tell you what happens when you start a car. When you put the ignition, you ignite the car. It takes more power to actually ignite, right? The same thing happens with electricity. It takes more power when you switch a light on, it takes more power to initiate the current. So what happens when you switch when the power goes off and suddenly the power comes back on, more power is needed to ignite, for lack of a better word, to start the process of electricity, of powering a kettle or a geyser, etc. And that inrush current can then cause an overload, and the overload can cause electrical box, etc., to explode. And that is what often happens. It is the knock-on effect of the load shedding that is so critical, and that's why I've appealed to the provincial government to also apply pressure on national government to to protect our substations, for instance, and to have them declared as national key points, so that
Absolutely.
they may never be completely switched off, at least run idle during load shedding schedules, so that there's not that massive inrush current and the wear and tear on a substation that's been lying idle for 2 hours or 4 hours. The coolant will coagulate, and when power comes back on, it's metal on metal. You can only imagine the erosion it causes inside that machinery. And it's no different with overhead cables where that's lubricated with a coolant. The coolant will coagulate, and when the power suddenly comes up, that inrush current can cause a fire. And that's why we ask people switch off your non-essential
Absolutely. I will
appliances.
remember I will remember this for the rest of my life and continue doing it from now on. Just one quick question, Nico, and that is with these rolling blackouts, undoubtedly it's going to be an ongoing feature in our lives. What happens when you lose electrical components and appliances through this switching on and off of the power? Can we claim from city council, city power, or do we go to our insurance companies?
Go to your insurance company first, and I would suggest that the insurance company then engages with the city or city power. It makes it very difficult to claim because it's after all city powers the go middleman. It really should become an Eskom problem. It's Eskom's fault that we are in this predicament. But my first point of call would always be my own insurance company. That's just from my experience. As much as we would like to hold the city to account, at the end of the day, it's also the city. We are the city. We are the ratepayers, and ultimately it becomes us paying for that insurance or that replacement.
Okay, so before I let you go, anything else of importance that we need to know to keep ourselves safe and keep our suburbs, our areas, and be truly good citizens? What is it that we need to know and focus on?
Always know who your ward councillor is. Always know
Ah,
your ward councillor. Your ward councillor has all the information, and join the ward councillor groups specifically because it's impossible for a ward councillor to take 35,000 phone calls, which is more or less how many residents a ward councillor would have in her or his or her ward. So I always say, know your ward councillor, join their groups so that you can get the information there and report these incidents. And when there is no resolve within a reasonable time, then you can escalate to the ward councillor. But don't expect the ward councillor to do all the reporting. It's never going to happen. Those ward councillors are seriously overworked, and they get a lot of flack from a lot of very, very upset residents when there's a power outage or a water short outage, etc.
Nico De Jager, former MMC Environment and Infrastructure. Always a pleasure talking to you. Go well, and hopefully we will talk again sometime in the future. And that is all about fire safety in and around your immediate environments, including your home and your loved ones. It is 9:47 exactly. In a minute or two, we are going to be talking about Bella, how it's going to impact on our children of school going age, what you as a parent or a school governing body member ought to know, need to know, and make it, and share this information so that we have safe and secure schooling environments.